Today we are here with Vicky Piquette, and we are doing the Science of Reading project, which is dedicated to interviewing parents, teachers, and instructors in higher education to hear the stories of individuals and how the science of reading has impacted them both personally and professionally. So welcome, Vicky, to our interview.
Thank
I'm
you.
going to ask you some questions. The first question is, tell us who you are and where you work and the scope of your position.
Okay. So my name is Vicky Piquette. I am a reading professor at Colorado State University in Pueblo. And I've been there for 12 years. I originally just started out teaching the continuity literacy course, but slowly over time, I was given other courses. We had some retirements and some people leave, and so now I'm really the sole reading professor at CSU-Pueblo. There are currently 4 classes offered for teacher certification, required courses for teacher candidates, and I teach 3 of the 4, but I just found out a couple weeks ago that I'll be taking over the 4th class in the fall. So I'll be like the reading professor at the university.
Wow, sounds like a big job. So tell us about your educational background. I guess you kind of alluded to that. And when you were first introduced to the evidence-based instruction, or what we now call science of reading.
Okay, so my journey's been kind of a long one. When I first started my bachelor's degree, there was a surplus of elementary school teachers, if you can believe that. And what they were finding is that they were graduating teacher candidates in elementary education and they couldn't find jobs. So they asked us they decided to get rid of the elementary school degree and told us to pick a major. So that way we could at least have a bachelor's degree in a different area in case we couldn't find a position in elementary education. So I chose biology. I was always good at science and math. I loved science and math. And I knew if I couldn't become an elementary school teacher, then at least I could do something that I very much enjoyed. And so I chose biology. And about halfway through my bachelor's degree program, the surplus was no longer an issue. And so they were finding they had more jobs. So they reinstituted an elementary school degree, and they gave us the option of sticking with our original plan and getting the certification for elementary education, or getting a degree in, it's basically a liberal arts degree. And I decided to stick with my biology degree. I was almost done with it by that point, and so with the required courses and whatnot, and I didn't really want to switch paths. So I stuck with that, and I was actually offered an opportunity to take part in a grant program where it was actually the reading department at the university that put it together, and they had 2 severely poverty-stricken schools that they had chosen for this program, and they put student teachers into these classrooms. We got to stay in the same classroom for an entire calendar school year, which was a unique opportunity. And at the same time, we took methods courses so we could directly apply what we were learning in our methods courses into our student teaching experience. And we had a mentor, which was a reading professor, that would come and work with us. She provided professional development for all the teachers, all the staff members, and for the teacher candidates. And then she was also there to give us tips and feedback, and she was our reading professor. She was teaching the methods courses for reading. And so it was a wonderful experience. I had an amazing cooperating teacher. It was definitely kind of the transition at that point from whole language to balanced literacy. Honestly, I didn't know what I was doing. And I was getting close to the end of my bachelor's degree program, and I had a really good relationship with my cooperating teacher, and I could replicate every single thing that she was doing, but I didn't know why. I didn't know what to do to help students if they were struggling. I didn't know how to remedy that. I didn't know how to adjust instruction to help them. And so I really felt like my training was lacking, like I could really use more. And my cooperating teacher really inspired me because unlike me, she was the opposite of me. She really struggled in math her whole life, and she got her master's degree in math education. And so I was able to watch how she helped struggling math students. And because I had never struggled in math, it was so eye-opening to me. I was able to see how she was able to take this abstract concept of math and really make it concrete because of her training. And I thought, that's what I need in reading. So straight out of my bachelor's degree, I started a master's degree in reading. And I also got a job as a second grade teacher. My cooperating teacher experience, my student teaching experience was there's no basal program. It was very much like we would make little copies of little readers that the students would read. So I never knew what a core program looked like. So in my first job, they plunked down this basal program and said, this is what we use. And I was like, what in the world? And it had been through several teachers by that point, so it was missing some of the components. And I was trying to like weed my way through it and figure out how to do it. And I had just barely started my master's degree program, still not very solid in my understanding of reading on how to help students. And so I kind of figured it out. And that first year of teaching, I really just used the basal program as best as I could. And I figured, well, at least they're getting this. At least I'm doing this. And if I just follow this, I know at least I'm teaching the skills that are required for this grade level. I switched to a different school, same school district, but switched to a different school the following year. Taught second grade again. It was very different. It was, they would read like series books. I had all the high students in second grade kind of level them out. And again, I watched my students, my high students' grades fall. And here I was about to be finished with my reading master's degree and still not really understanding how to help students and how to make it engaging and fun, and if they struggled, what to do. And how do we even know if they are struggling? How do you know that? I was just kind of following the steps. And I went to the first grade level after that, same school. And that's when I was first introduced to phonemic awareness. And so I feel like I had a better handle on what that was and how to instruct with that. But again, we were using the basal program. So lots of poems and finding words that had the same patterns and that kind of stuff, as far as our phonics instruction goes. My husband and I at that point started a family, and I decided to become a stay-at-home mom. And so at that time, I worked on a second master's degree in early childhood education, which I really felt was like my passion at the time. And so I finished that, and right when I was finishing that, the university contacted me and said, hey, we need someone to teach graduate level students in the content literacy course. And that was actually my favorite course in my master's degree. So I was really excited to do that, a little nervous. And so that's where I got my feet wet in higher education. And I've been there now for 14 years. Once the local community colleges also found out that I had a master's degree in early childhood education, which is a rarity in this part, they grabbed onto me. And so I've been teaching early childhood education courses at the community colleges as well. But yeah, I was just kind of going, you know, doing what I was doing. I used the same textbook that I had in my master's degree program, which was the Vaca and Vaca, and it was very much balanced literacy and doing the best that I could. My mom has her master's degree in reading, and she was a district literacy coach at the time, and so she was really feeding me information about where the state was going and different things about phonics instruction and whatnot. And I was like, yeah, you know, I'm just doing my best. And I think some of that's weird. And she was all into the reading first movement. And I thought, man, you're just like killing those students. They're going to hate reading by the time they're done, you know, and not seeing the connect. Yeah. Drill and kill. So
your mother was right.
Yeah.
I know it's hard to admit, right?
Right. So I was very much opposed to anything, you know, like that. And so the gal who was teaching it's called the teaching reading course at our university was going on sabbatical. And so she asked me to teach that course for the elementary school level. And I was a little like, oh, you know, even though I did teach elementary, like I explained, I had struggled. And I didn't want to admit, but I didn't know what I was doing. And so I sat down with her. We went through some of the stuff that she had gone through. She gave me her letters manuals. And I remember looking at them and being like, holy cow, like, I don't even know what they're talking about. This is way more in depth than I'm willing to spend the time with, and just really delving into it. And I didn't, without having someone kind of going through this with me, I didn't understand it. It would have taken me a lot of time. So I did the best that I could. I really followed the book. Again, she also used the Vaca book, which was very much balanced literacy. And that's where I went. Well, she was close to retirement. And when a local school district had heard that, one of their reading coaches had reached out to me and said, hey, do you mind if we just go grab some coffee? Someday I'd like to talk to you more about what our district is doing. And my dean had warned me. He said, you know what, this gal is very nice, but she's always complaining about how our university is not doing a very good job of preparing teachers to teach reading. And so I had geared up for this coffee date in a very defensive manner. You know, I was like, well, here we go. And, you know, I sat down and I said, this is, you know, look. Everyone loves to blame the university professors. This is the deal. I have 3 hours with these students once a week for 15 weeks, and I have to teach them everything that they need to know about reading in those 45 hours. And she was appalled. She was like, how in the world are you able to do that? And I said, I'm not. So some of the burden has to be put on the school districts. And honestly, a lot of students will hear all this theory and whatnot, and then until they have to apply it, they're not going to see the importance of it. And so she did. I remember her showing me Scarborough's reading rope. She talked about the simple view of reading, and she was so excited about all this stuff she was learning. And she had recommended a few books. I think she recommended Print to Speech and maybe Kilpatrick's book. I can't even remember. I asked her to write them down to me in an email and send it to me or whatever. And she did. And that was that. Well, a couple months later, she had reached out to me again and said, hey, we would like to invite you to our district professional development. Just so you can see what our district is doing. Our short little coffee date probably didn't give it justice. And I would just like to extend this opportunity to you. And so I approached my dean about this, and he said, you know, that sounds great. You know, it was free of charge. So do it, you know. I don't know what you're going to learn there, but you know, why not? So I did, and I went, and the gal who was putting it on, I know now, I didn't know then, but I know now, she was a letters trainer. Yes, she had worked for, she was working for the Colorado Department of Education, and she had designed her own structured literacy program. And she was implementing it into different districts free of charge to see how it would work. And so she was doing a huge research project on this, and this local school district was one of them. And about the same time that this is going on, Colorado had passed the READ Act, which I don't know if you're familiar with that or not, but it was really basically requiring structured literacy, basically.
Right. What year was this?
2014.
Okay.
Well, and a lot of school districts couldn't afford. So the READ Act requires that they use an approved core reading program that's phonics based, and they get their list from the Florida Reading Research. And so they had a lot. So like I said, some school districts couldn't afford that. So like, how are we supposed to meet this requirement? Well, this structured literacy program is one option because it's free. So this is a huge school district in Pueblo, and so they were like, well, why not? And they had seen huge improvements in their students' reading abilities and their teachers' abilities to teach effective literacy. And so it was a 4-day training. I went to the first day, and granted, a lot of my past students are in this classroom with me.
Oh, sure.
So it was a little like, oh my gosh. The facilitator had invited a couple of other professors from different universities around Colorado to come. Only one of them took her up on it, but I'm so glad she did. She was a special educator from my alma mater at University of Northern Colorado. So she and I sat together, and all my students were sitting in front of us. And this facilitator was talking, and the first day I was like, feeling pretty good about myself. Like, yeah, I taught this. I taught this to all of you. So you guys better know the answers. This better be reviewed for you. This is, this is stuff that I taught. And it was a lot about the 5 components of reading and whatnot. And I had been doing that, but I had honestly been teaching the three cueing systems as well.
Sure.
And she hadn't mentioned that. But so anyway, I was feeling pretty good about myself after the first day. I went home and thought, I'm doing a good job. See, it's not as bad. You guys are blaming me, but I'm doing a pretty good job.
Yep.
So I go at the second day, and I was like, my mind was blown open. Like, I don't know what you're talking about.
So interesting. Wow.
She was talking about different, phonics rules and different ways we can analyze words, and we could break it down into syllables, we could break it down into graphemes, and we could break it down into morphemes. And I was like, some of these terms I've never even heard.
Yep.
And this was like, wow, like, and I had recognized, Scarborough's rope. I had recognized Tolman's hourglass from my initial meeting with the district literacy coach. But I was like, oh, wow.
It was downhill after day one. It sounds like.
I was like, oh, and don't call on me, especially in front of my students. And again, I'm so glad I was sitting next to this other professor, because she had a vast knowledge of linguistics. And so anything I was struggling with, she was able to break it down for me. So I was like, holy cow, what's the third and fourth day going to look like? So I went to the third day. Third day was a lot of the same. Like, I can't even, there was so much information to process it all. Was like, my brain was overloaded.
Sure.
And on my drive home, I thought about a couple things that the facilitator had said. And she had actually was a history major in college. And she said what changed her life, what changed her whole outlook on teaching, was when she took a linguistics class. And it was really a class she wasn't required to take. She just took it because she needed a filler class. And it totally changed her whole path in education. And she had done everything. She was also close to retirement. She had ran a group home for troubled teens. She had been a special educator. She had been a school psychologist. I mean, she had done everything. And now she was, you know, working for CDE as a literacy consultant and on that side of things. So I was driving home that day, and I had about a 40-minute drive, and I was thinking, this is what my students are missing. My students are missing a solid understanding of linguistics. That's what I was missing. I didn't know if my student was struggling with a specific, like the CK rule. I didn't know how to identify that, let alone help them. And that's what was missing. So I came home, and still overwhelmed and overloaded, I called my dean, and I said, I have an idea. What if we offer a linguistics course? I started, I'll design it and everything, and it would kind of be like a prerequisite to taking the reading courses that they have to take. And he said, great, sounds good. You put a proposal up. It'll take a while to get through the university system, but you go ahead and do that, and we'll see what happens. And I was like, ooh, exciting, you know, that's great. I got my work cut out for me, but here we go. Right. So I went to the 4th day. It just made me more excited to learn more about linguistics and whatnot. And so I started that fall. I, you know, put a proposal in. I came up with a syllabus and came up with my rationale as to why students, call them kids, students needed this. And I got that through. It took about a year to get that pushed through. Technically, I could have started it this fall, but we pushed it out one more semester because it's in the current calendar, the current catalog. So our current current students aren't required to take it yet. So it'd be the incoming freshmen that are in that catalog. So we needed some time to promote the class, basically. Right. And so that's kind of what I've been doing. My dean's been doing, the other professors have been doing, like, you know, we know this isn't required, but we really recommend it. And kind of rearranging some things. Right now, our English majors are required to take both the elementary school class and the content literacy class, which I feel like they would benefit more from the linguistics class. I want all my teacher candidates who are getting ELL certification to also take the linguistics class. So we're kind of rearranging some things and whatnot. So I actually be starting that class in the spring, and I'm excited to teach it. But around the same time I was also doing this professional development, I had started my doctoral degree. I'm now a couple years, 2.5 years into it, so I'm about halfway finished. As part of I'm finished with all my coursework for my doctorate degree. Oh, sure. I'm in the internship phase. And so I have to do 2 internships. So this past fall, I did an internship with the school district that I live in, with the district literacy coach here. And the READ Act has just passed an amendment, the SB 1999 amendment. And basically it's requiring all K-3 teachers to be certified to teach reading. And they have 8 different pathways to do that. One of them is the letters training. And so the local school district that I live in, they decided to do that pathway for their students, or their teachers, to offer that as an option. They got a big grant to provide this training. It's just book 1. And they didn't have as many teachers sign up for it as they wanted, or they thought they had anticipated. Some of them decided to do the free training through the state instead. Oh, sure. So there was available spots. And so I asked the superintendent, I said, do you mind if I do it? And he said, sure, go for it. You know, it'll be part of your internship. That's when it was really like, okay, now it all makes sense. All the stuff that I had learned in that professional development, now is making, like, this is really breaking it down for me.
Yep.
That's really the first time I had learned about the science of reading. The professional development was like, kind of assumed that I already knew that. And that's where I was like so overwhelmed and not seeing the connection. But this has totally blown my mind open. I contacted my dean and said, is there any way you could purchase the second book for me and have me do the second training for letters so that I can learn more about this? I think it's really going to help me with the linguistics class, but I also want to totally revamp a little bit of the content and literacy class, but also hugely the elementary school class. And then I'm finding out that I'm also teaching the other course, which is actually more of an ELA writing course. And I said, you know, I really feel like it could help me with that. And I'm getting into it and loving it. And then I also have approached my dean about getting letters certified to be a certified trainer. And he's all for it. So I think that's my next step. Hopefully within the next year, I will do that as well. I'm looking at this being a potential dissertation topic for myself. One of the 8 pathways for this new amendment is also to get training at the college. And my dean has been waiting on direction and guidance from the state as to how that's supposed to look. And our university is already 15 steps ahead of everyone else because of what I've been given the opportunity to do. We already have this linguistics course in process. We're already going to be meeting all of the standards and all of the requirements to get our teachers certified to teach reading at the K-3 level. But unfortunately, we just found out that the state is not going to require any university to do it. If they don't want to do it, they don't have to. They can just go about teaching the way they want to. They don't have to learn anything about science of reading or structured literacy or anything like that. And my feeling is that they won't because they don't have to. Why do it? You know, they're going to go about teaching the way that they feel is best.
Will they lose customers that way?
I don't know. If teachers don't know about this, you know, this would be incoming. It would probably be the incoming bachelor's degree programs, teacher certification. So, you know, is that something that they're going to know? I don't know. You know, that's kind of where I'm at right now, is how can I promote our program? How can I get the word out to seniors in high school that, you know, this is important and this is something that if you're really serious about teaching K-3 that you might want to consider. A lot of them probably have not been taught that way themselves.
It's generational. It's true.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't, how do you, there's different, you know, the deans, the education deans get together once a month. You know, my dean certainly is promoting this and saying, you know, this is really important and you should think about doing something like this. You know, and I'm trying to think about what my part would be. We have to get accredited by the state. Is going to come. They were supposed to come this year. I'm glad they didn't, but because of COVID, they pushed it off a year. Sure. So I am the sole reading professor, so it'll be mostly on my shoulders. I'm feeling a whole lot better prepared. That they're going to come down and they're going to look at everything that I'm doing, and I'm really teaching what they need, what they're looking for. And it's kind of been like a haphazard way, but I'm glad that we don't feel unprepared, that we're, you know, ahead of the game, and that we're doing what is required of our teacher candidates, and to make sure that they're going to be effective teachers of literacy once they graduate.
It sounds like you've really made a 180 on this.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And your journey is very similar to other people's journey. It's that gradual come to Jesus moment when you feel like,
Yes.
oh my gosh, what have I been doing all these years? And
Oh, I
you're
know.
not alone
Right.
in having those feelings and concerns and just feeling just so inadequate. And how did I do this all these years? And
Right.
how many kids have I ruined? All that guilt and shame.
Absolutely.
And
Hmm.
you as a professor, as you saw your students in front of you,
Yes.
yeah, I'm sure that was
Embarrassing.
right. But now you know better, and when we do better, when we know better, we do better.
Right.
So
Right.
I'm so glad to hear your story. It's really
Thank you.
exciting to hear that, and
Thank
thank you
you.
for being willing to talk about it. It
Sure.
sounds like Colorado is really moving ahead, and if you could share out with us, and I'll post it, the 8 options that teachers have. I'd like to see
Yeah.
that. That'd be
Sure.
interesting for other states to see what Colorado's doing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's, in my dissertation program, I will say I'm not getting trained on science of reading through my dissertation program, but it's not like they're against it. They're very open to it. They're excited for me. They find it, intriguing themselves. They're still ingrained in balanced literacy, some of them in whole language, depending on what generation they're from.
Exactly.
But a lot of my fellow doctoral candidates are like, we've heard such great things about Colorado and where they're going. We wish that we were, there. We're still using Lucy Calkins and Orton Gilliam and that kind of stuff. And that's where we want to head. And they're interested, and a lot of them will also be university professors. So I really feel like the word is getting out and it's spreading. And
That's
that's
so
exciting.
encouraging to hear.
Yeah.
And just you in the position you're in, you can be very influential with lots of people.
I hope so.
I hope so too, but I know you are. So
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
thank you for your time and your story. It was really wonderful to hear that.
Yes.
We appreciate
Yes.
it.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. Thank you.
Mhm.